have your attention, this deserves your attention too. Look at all these artworks of women. You would think that women have been well represented throughout art history, right? But not one of these artworks was created by a woman. They are all images of women made by men. Strange, yes, but it wasn't until 1972 that the art critic Linda Nochlin asked, "Why have there been no great women artists?" This question was raised in the middle of the women's liberation movement, which addressed sexist inequality found in all areas of life. To answer her own question, Linda Nochlin realised that to become a great artist requires training at an art college or undertaking an apprenticeship. Experimenting to develop your own art style takes a lot of time. But let's just stop here for a moment. Let's take a look at the actual reality of women's lives for much of Western history. The domestic world of child rearing, cooking and cleaning was the world in which women were expected to spend their lives. This being the case, women literally had no time to pursue artistic talent. So what about that legend that Giotto was discovered drawing on a stone in a meadow when he was just a shepherd boy? There were other painters, Becca Fumi, Andrea Sansovino, Andrea del Castagno, Mantegna and Goya, who were discovered as children to have great talent. So why were there no little girl geniuses discovered? Evidence would suggest that women simply don't have the same abilities as men. But hang on, let's remember that marriage and motherhood was the only acceptable option for a woman of the bourgeoisie. Even if a little girl showed some skill in drawing, her future as a mother was more important than her artistic potential. Mrs. Ellis's widely read The Family Monitor and Domestic Guide, published around the early 1800s, stated that the only advantage for a young lady pursuing artistic activities was that it is quiet and disturbs no one. Drawing was seen as an occasional recreational skill which only very rich women would be able to have time to undertake. The feminist art movement is a name given to the rise of women artists in the 1960s and 1970s. It was a revelatory movement starting in America that came at a time of huge political changes. In the 1960s, American President John F. Kennedy was elected and then assassinated. The Vietnam War fueled countless war protests. Marilyn Monroe committed suicide. The leader of the African American civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr., rose to power and was then assassinated. The socialist Black Panther movement came to rise, demanding protection for black neighborhoods from police brutality and putting forth an anti-capitalism and anti-racism ideas. Amidst all of this, Neil Armstrong took a walk on the moon. In this time of rapid political changes, the voices of marginalized people were coming to rise, including the voices of women, black people, homosexuals, and students. And what were the results of the feminist movement? Well, they changed laws. The Equal Pay Act improved working conditions for women. The Executive Order 11375 banned gender discrimination when hiring employees. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 outlawed discrimination based on gender, race, religion, or nationality. Let's take this all back to art. Since the 1960s, plenty of art students are women, and there are plenty of exhibitions of women artists and artworks by women about womanhood. So why is this still worth thinking about? Well, a 2011 survey by the feminist art collective The Guerrilla Girls, focusing on New York museums, found that 4% of artists in the Metropolitan Museum's contemporary section were women. Blah, blah. A report from the Smithsonian American Art Museum, also published in 2011, found that in all of the 5,193 public sculptures in America, only 394 were of women. Blah, blah. It would seem that just like biological evolution, some things take a long time to change.